In this lesson, we're going to keep applying our stroke techniques and finish off another multi-limb object using strokes and animating the brush size. So here's where we left off. So we just finished the animation of the lower curly growing. So we can play through and see that. So now let's focus in on this object right here. So this is our upper flourish. And just as we had before, let's pre-comp this. So Control-Shift-C. And let's just call this grow. And let's move into that composition, zoom in, and let's draw our main limb. So I'm just going to hit enter and type in main limb so I can remember exactly what this is. So again, the pen tool, and let's just draw out a curve that sort of goes along this main limb. Now this is going to actually show us a few problems, or it's going to have a few issues. The first is this circle here, and the next is this large piece right here. So we're going to see how we're going to fix that using the brush size animation. So now that we've drawn out our mask, let's go to our animation presets and let's grab the stroke reveal we created and drop it on. And so this will set up the animation for us and all of the settings we need. So let's play through. It's looking pretty good. Now of course part of this circle is cut off, but before we begin worrying about that, let's first duplicate this layer twice. Because we have two different limbs. We have first this one down here and then this one right here. Now of course we could do a third for the circle, but I'm going to solve that issue using a different method. So let's just focus on this first growth. So this is going to be the first limb. And this is going to be the large limb. And I'm just giving these slightly descriptive names so I pretty much know what I'm doing with them. So I'm going to, we can keep the original mask, and let's grab our pen tool and draw out this first limb here. It's going to be pretty standard. We just need to set the mask to mask 2, and of course change the animation to finish a little sooner, because right now this is going to be pretty slow. The main limb is going to fly out, and then this last limb is going to be slow to come in, so let's just pull the end in a little further. And it looked like in the beginning we started a little prematurely, so let's move forward and set it to start on that frame. Okay, looking good. So now let's deal with this large limb here. So again, let's disable the stroke, draw out our curve that we want. And this one's going to be a little bit difficult because we have this big bulb here, but let's try and deal with it. So we'll reveal our stroke, change it to the mask we just created, and take a look. Of course, we'll need to change the start frame to wherever the main limb hits. Looks like about here. Just scroll forward just to check it. And we actually probably want to do it a few frames earlier. Okay, that's looking better. Now, of course, when we get to the end, we think, oh, well, this looks great. It's good to go. We can just wrap it up. But really, if you'll remember, we're missing quite a bit of our original. So let's do the stroke test where we disable it and then enable it. We can see that we're cutting off part of our image here. So to fix this, we can do a few different things. On the main limb here, we can increase the brush size quite a bit to fill in that circle. So let's increase that to about 6.3, and let's check if that has changed any of our animation. Okay, it looks like it changed a little bit here. You'll notice that this almost has an edge now, which is really noticeable right about here. So if we solo this left limb, you'll notice that it's only up to here. But our main limb now, because of this large brush size, is now showing that as well. So to solve that, we can just control left click and drag on this main limb away until we stop creating it. Or we stop creating the second limb. Alright, so let's just page forward. Now our first limb needs to increase its size a little bit as well because we missed part of that. Alright, do the stroke test again. Let's go to the end of our animation. Alright, so now all we're missing essentially is this big limb here. So let's animate this getting larger. And let's make sure all of our strokes are on. Okay. And so on this large limb here, let's keyframe the brush size to get larger and larger as it gets closer to this end here. So let's just set a keyframe, and then let's go to the end here, and let's just bump this up until we can see the entire piece. So probably about 12, 14 for this piece. Let's hit U, and let's take a look at the animation to see if it looks okay. Alright, so it's coming along, and it looks like we've got a little bit of a problem. You'll see here that it's full, next frame it's back, next frame it's full. So let's just drag this back a little bit. We can certainly sort of deal with this in sort of a freehand way. So let's just continue moving forward, and let's move this stroke size back because it's okay to make it larger faster. And we can also decrease this end size so it ends a little bit quicker as well. So let's continue just kind of playing through, and let's just hit 0 to see what it looks like. Alright, as you can see, there was a little bit of a blip right there. So this is ending a little bit too soon, or beginning a little bit too soon. So let's pull it forward a little bit and check it again. Okay. Now you'll notice here take a look at this top line of pixels here. It's getting filled in after the fact. You see that? That's because as we grow the brush size, we're growing all of it. So what this means to me is that my main limb brush size is not large enough. So let's go to the main limb here. Let's increase our brush size a little bit. Let's go back. That didn't really solve it because now we're layering over itself. So what we can do is we can simply pull this brush size a little bit closer, and that should make it happen much faster. Okay, so let's try that. It's still happening to a small extent, so the only way we could really get rid of that is to set this brush size before that line hits, which means pulling back this entire sequence back quite a bit. Okay, so now we have this working a little bit better. Okay, so in this lesson we learned how we could animate the brush size to deal with different thicknesses of objects. So we learned how we could animate in a very thick leaf as well as deal with obstructions that are in our way. Now, as soon as we introduce this, I just noticed that playing through it we have a little problem where we're revealing the bottom tip of this a little bit too soon, so it's a pretty easy fix. Just come in here, grab this point, pull it out a little bit, because we definitely do not want to be revealing that, so we can, of course, pull this back. And let's just preview this. Still giving us a little of a problem, so we can just continue moving it back. Let's take a look. Okay, much better. Great. So now that we have this finished, we can close it, lock it, and move on to the next object. So the next few objects we have are obviously much more complex. So we'll take a look at what we need to do to finish this object right here in the next lesson.